15 spine-chilling true stories from Reddit that expose unexplained hauntings and sinister secrets. Emma had always been drawn to stories of hauntings and mysteries. Little did she know, she'd be living one herself. After escaping an abusive relationship, she relocated to the idyllic suburb of Maplewood with her 2 young children, Tyler and Ava, seeking a fresh start and safety. The welcoming charm of her 2-story house seemed to beam with promise as sunlight poured in, painting warm golden hues across their new life. But the serenity was a mere mask, concealing dark whispers. The first week was a blissful whirlwind, with laughter erupting in echoing halls and the aroma of barbecues mingling in the air. Emma, fueled by optimism, even placed cheerful invitations on neighbors' doors for a welcome dinner. Yet, as time ticked, disturbing whispers crept into her peaceful world. The laughter from outside began to fade, replaced by unsettling sounds that clawed at her mind. Shadows flickered past the windows, swirling with an ominous presence. Her cozy home transformed, feeling unnervingly cold. One particular night, the tranquility shattered. As she tucked her children into bed, a soft, rhythmic tapping pierced the silence. A peculiar, childlike knuckle rap against the front door. Peering through the window, Emma spotted Mr. Collins, her elderly neighbor, dressed in shadowy hues. His smile, welcoming yet disturbingly knowing, sent a chill racing down her spine. When she confided in him about her eerie experiences, he brushed them aside, assuring her of the neighborhood's safety. That polished demeanor faded quickly as discomfort seeped into her mind. Driven by a growing dread, Emma turned to the internet, typing "haunting Maplewood" and Mr. Collins into the search bar, hoping to find someone who understood her plight. Her heart sank as she discovered a chilling thread detailing her home's sinister history, each story resonating with her unease: midnight figures, lost children, malicious stares. The neighborhood's warm smiles morphed into cold frowns, revealing a concealed world of shared traumas and terrors. Then, a gut-wrenching shift stirred her children. Tyler's laughter faded, replaced by a reserved demeanor, while Ava engrossed herself with chilling drawings. Creepy figures, with piercing glass-like eyes, lurked just beyond their windows, shadows echoing Mr. Collins in disturbing detail. Emma's heart raced, terror spiking as each image twisted her insides. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Fearing for her family, Emma confronted Mr. Collins, her heart pounding as she approached. As he beckoned her closer, an unnatural chill wrapped around her. He shared tales of dark folklore buried within Maplewood, stories draped in shadows that buried themselves in the soil of her new home. The atmosphere thickened, a looming threat intertwined with the very walls around her. Suddenly, a deafening crash erupted from inside her house. The front door swung wide open, revealing a night thick with shadows, the whispers crescendoing into chaotic screams just inches away. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Had she stepped into a sinister web woven by her seemingly friendly neighbors? Fear gripped her as she realized the darkness was no longer a mere specter. It had clawed its way into her home. Would she make it out before being ensnared in the haunting grip of Maplewood? With each pulse of impending danger, Emma stood paralyzed on the threshold, heart racing, as a glimpse of something sinister broke through the shadows. Emma stumbled backward, the once welcoming porch swallowing her in a tide of dread. She stood frozen, heart hammering, the weight of despair pressing down on her chest. The door gaped wide, an uninvited maw, and the unsettling sounds poured out, cries and crashes melding into a cacophony that felt alive. Her instinct screamed to run, to grab Tyler and Ava and flee from this cursed place. But something else held her in place, perhaps curiosity, perhaps a sinister pull. As she ascended the steps, the threshold felt hot, like it was breathing beneath her feet. A dark smear of ink spilled into the moonlight from within, and a low hum hummed from all corners of the home, vibrating through the air like a warning. "Mommy," hissed Ava from inside, her voice childish yet laced with an odd depth that sent chills spiraling down Emma's spine. Emma rushed inside, her eyes darting around the frigid entryway. The living room stood in disarray, furniture shoved aside like a wild storm had swept through. And at the center, Tyler knelt, his small body trembling as he clutched something in both hands, something dark and formless. "Tyler?" she called out, dread coiling tighter around her. He didn't respond. Instead, his eyes were locked on the floor, vacant yet filled with an infinitude of fear. Emma moved closer, the darkness of the space enveloping her like a heavy fog. "What is it, honey? What's wrong?" He finally shifted his gaze to her, and what she saw sent icy fingers skittering across her skin. His eyes were wide, reflecting pools of terror, but they also seemed dimmed hollow. "Mom," it came from the drawings, his voice was raspy and low, cracking as he pointed to the chaotic scribbles littering the floor. Emma stepped closer, and there it lay, Ava's latest creation, figures she had drawn, sketched so intimately that their grotesque forms seemed alive. The painted shapes twisted and writhed, bursting forth from the page. "How is this possible?" Emma nearly trembled, words caught in a web of disbelief. Before she could process her thoughts, Ava joined Tyler on the floor, her chubby hands tearing through the remnants of her artwork like a ravenous beast. "They want to play," she giggled, her voice eerily sweet, yet deep in her tone a sinister undercurrent stirred, a chilling counterpoint to her innocent facade. Suddenly, the walls groaned, and a shadow twisted through the living room, an indescribable shape that slithered along the edges. Emma's breath was shallow, panic rising like bile in her throat. "No!" she screamed, lunging towards her children, driven by an instinct for survival. As she reached them, a force surged, pulling them backward. They tumbled away from her grasp, landing in a heap as the shadows moved in closer, creeping over the edges of the walls like hungry fingers. "Help, Mommy!" Tyler's voice broke, echoing in Emma's mind, mixing with Ava's innocent laughter that was too high, too frantic, as if the sound were taunting her. She felt the cold seeping in, wrapping around her limbs, her chest constricting with every beat of her terrified heart. She had to act, to move, to wake them from this nightmare, or they would all be lost. With every ounce of strength, she reached out for her children again, the darkness clawing at her heels. Just as she grasped the fabric of Ava's shirt, a blinding light exploded in the room, a flash that momentarily illuminated the haunted corners, revealing grim faces pressed against the walls, hollow-eyed apparitions stretched in glee. As the light faded, the cries swallowed her whole, and the shadows danced wildly, laughing. Stay with us," they whispered, the walls echoing with their sinister delight. Emma could feel their cold breath on her neck. This time, she couldn't hesitate. With the darkness encroaching, she fought against the grip of despair, a single thought igniting within her: escape. But could they break free, or would they become just another part of Maplewood's disturbed history? As the stifling pressure mounted, she braced herself for a fight against the shadows that encircled them. But would escaping them come at a horrifying cost? What choice would she make when faced with the possibility that the truth could be far worse than the legends whispered through her new home? Emma's heart raced as she battled against the suffocating darkness, the laughter of shadowy figures echoing in her mind like a haunting melody. The chilling whispers intertwined with her frantic thoughts, each taunt pulling her deeper into despair. She strained to see her children through the night, her fingers trembling as they searched for tangible warmth in a place that felt so cold. "Tyler! Ava!" Her voice rang out, desperate and raw, but the shadows twisted around her, bending the sound, drawing her words back into the void. She felt the edges of fear creeping closer, a living entity hungry for all she held dear. Ava's giggles morphed, rippling through the air, cold and mocking. "Mommy, they want to play." The innocence of her tone shattered like glass upon impact, leaving shards of dread piercing Emma's consciousness. "They want to play, they want to take you." Tyler's small voice trembled, echoing the same dreadful sentiment. He crawled backward, attempting to escape the grasp of a creeping shadow that longed to envelop him whole. Emma's breath hitched in her throat as she saw it, a gnarled hand reaching through the void, stretch out toward her son. No. She lunged forward, pulling Tyler toward her while yelling at Ava to do the same. But as she reached for Ava, something solidified in the air, an invisible barrier separating them. Her gut twisted, a cold realization struck: the children were in danger, and she couldn't bridge the chasm that separated them. The shadows whispered again. "Stay with us," they crooned, sounding almost sweet in their sinister coils. Emma felt the chill of their presence seep into her bones. It was as if the darkness was tightening around them, squeezing, suffocating. "Get away from them!" Emma screamed, forcing herself between the children and the advancing shadows. She was small and vulnerable, but pure instinct surged through her veins. She took a deep breath and shouted against the suffocating pressure, "You can't have them. You can't have us." For a moment, the shadows hesitated, swirling in confusion, like a gust of wind battling a sturdy wall. Emma seized the opportunity. "Tyler, listen to me. Run to the door." Tyler's eyes darted to the entrance, then back to his mother. "But the shadows trust me. Just move," she commanded, her voice fierce and unwavering. As if compelled by her sheer will, he scrambled to his feet, pulling Ava to follow. Emma kept her body stretched between them and the advancing darkness, feeling the cold lapping at her heels. A battle of wills played out in that chilling moment, darkness versus love, despair versus hope. The shadows surged forward again, and she felt a hard tug on her sleeve, the darkness sensing her resolve weakening. Pain shot through her as she was jolted, a deep-rooted fear holding her in its grasp. "Mommy!" Tyler screamed, pulling Ava closer as they stumbled toward the door, inching away from the spectral grasp. "Go!" Emma urged, her voice rising like a battle cry, clinging to the last threads of hope as her pulse quickened. She took a step back, a single resolve in her mind: she wouldn't let them fall prey to this nightmare. The door loomed ahead, but the shadows writhed, swirling with menace, unwilling to release their grip. "Join us," they whispered, their forbidden charms trying to steal her senses. Emma's heart thundered in her chest. She could feel the walls closing in. Time felt endless, and yet, in that terrifying instant, she knew she had to make a choice: sacrifice herself or save her children. "Stay near me." The weight of her resolve crashed down as she stepped backward, away from the advancing swarm, determined to give her children a chance whatever the cost. But in the blink of an eye, the shadows shivered and then lunged with a roar like a storm. They reached for her, the world around her swallowing away the sound of her screams. Darkness enveloped her as she felt herself being pulled in different directions. Could she withstand it? Was there still a way out, or was it already too late? As the grip tightened, a chilling thought struck her. What if these shadows weren't just waiting to claim her family? What if they were hungry for something deeper, something long buried? What were they willing to sacrifice to feed their hunger? The truth twisted in her mind like the shadows around her. Did she even know the real story of Maplewood? Would the darkest secrets it harbored come to light, or would they all be doomed to fade into its cursed history? Facing the dark maelstrom, Emma learned that sometimes, the deepest horrors lie not in what is seen, but in the whispers of what has long been forgotten. What revelation awaited her as she clawed for escape? The darkness wrapped around Emma tighter, forming an icy cocoon that muffled the world. Time twisted and bent, stretching out each second into a painful eternity. Desperation clawed at her heart as she wrestled with unseen shrouds, the whispers melding into a cacophony of jeers and threats. "Join us, be one of us." The shadows slithered closer, their voices dripping with malice. It was no longer just a sound, it became a physical weight pressing against her chest. Panic threatened to swallow her mind whole, yet a flicker of resolve ignited deep within her. Emma thought of her children. Their faces innocent and bright pushed against the darkness. They were the only light in this abyss. She wasn't just fighting for her own survival but theirs as well. "No." Emma growled through clenched teeth. "You will not take them." With a surge of panic-driven defiance, she summoned all the strength she could muster and tore her arm free from the shadowed grip. It felt like a thunderclap in the suffocating stillness. She reached instinctively for her children. "Tyler. Ava. Come on. She called with breathless urgency, her voice cutting through the veil of darkness. The commotion was electric, a snap of tension radiating outwards. They were there, just beyond her extended fingertips, their cries fueling her spirit. She turned to run, fleeing toward the door, bolstered by their innocence and need for her. The shadows, enraged by this show of defiance, howled in retaliation. Digging claws of darkness clawed at her spirit as they chased, tugging at her as if attempting to drag her back into their churning depths. "Mommy!" they shouted, their small voices quivering like frail leaves in an autumn storm. "No. Just hold on." Emma barked, glancing back at the swirling dark mass. It was alive, it pulsated with an ancient hunger, alive with dark promises. The shadows elongated and twisted, casting grotesque shapes against the walls of the narrow hall, but as they neared the door, Emma stumbled, feeling a jagged pain lancing through her calf. She collapsed to the ground, the familiar chill invading her skin, leaving her gasping as her heart sank. "Tyler! Ava! Go without me!" she pleaded, willing her words to ignite a spark of courage in their young hearts. But to her horror, they hesitated, torn between their instinct to dash away and their yearning to stay with her. "No! We won't leave you!" Tyler shouted, tears brimming in his eyes. "Mommy!" Ava echoed, her small voice trembling as though using the word might bring her safety from the chaos. Before Emma could respond, the shadows surged toward her, an explosion of dark fury that sent a violent rush of fear coursing through her veins. She felt the darkness reaching, wrapping around her again, colder than ice, as panic gripped her throat in a choking hold. "Fight it!" she screamed, and her voice rippled through the darkness, shattering the haunting echoes surrounding them. "You are stronger than this." The shadows hesitated, wailing and twisting in confusion. Emma caught a glimpse of their raw hunger, their failures, and her pure determination vibrated with an opposing force. Maybe they weren't invincible, with every ounce of strength they could muster, she drew on the warmth and light of her children's love, renewed hope flooding her being. "You are not welcome here," she declared, her voice shaking yet firm, each syllable a refusal to bow to the malevolence surrounding them. In that moment, light exploded from the barrier of her will, forcing back the shadow. A piercing shriek erupted from the darkness as it recoiled, the shadows twisting and shrieking in turmoil. "Mommy!" Tyler and Ava shouted in unison, instinctively flocking to her side, the bond between them strong as they held on to one another, arms locked together, but the shadows weren't done. They writhed and surged, angry at the lost opportunity, and suddenly, dark tendrils whipped back toward Emma, faster and more furious than ever. "Run!" she bellowed one last time, urgency flooding her voice as the darkness lunged. Just as a tangible gloom reached them, the ancient door swung open with an ear-shattering creak, a warped portal beckoning them. Before Emma could leap forward, the last shred of her strength waned. She fell backward as outstretched shadows seized her, their icy fingers wrapping around her arms like shackles. "Mommy!" Her children's cries echoed, a sharp dagger of guilt stabbing through her heart. Nothing mattered but them. Through the darkness and pain, she sensed something shifting, whispers bubbling to the surface, the key to their salvation. What if releasing the shadows would unleash something worse? Did she dare find out? As the darkness tightened its grip, Emma knew she had only moments left. What choice lay before her? And then a voice, an echo of forgotten memories surfaced in the chaos, scratching against her consciousness. "There are things your soul hides, things that long to be released." Would she have the courage to confront what lurked within? Would they escape the shadows, or would the darkness pull them all into its depths, revealing secrets meant to stay buried? The shadows tightened around Emma like a vice, each icy finger squeezing the life out of her. They were relentless, pulling her deeper into the abyss, where her screams mingled with malevolent laughter. Time warped, dragging her down a claustrophobic tunnel of despair. "Emma!" Tyler's voice was a desperate plea, cutting through the darkness like a lighthouse beam through fog. "Hold on. I'll fight." She gasped, her voice strangled by fear and exertion. Mere breaths felt like a struggle against drowning, and she clawed at the temperature that threatened to snuff out the embers of her soul. The door to the outside world loomed inches away, but the shadows coiled tighter each second she lingered. She envisioned her children, their faces painted with concern and love, and with that image, a surge of warmth ignited her resolve anew. Emma steeled herself. Let go. She managed to scream, trying to sever the bonds the darkness had on her. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if the gloom pulled back, savoring her struggle like a predatory cat plays with its prey. Instinctively, she flared her will, fueled by a primal urge to protect her kids. I want to let you take us. Yet, the shadows hissed, a cruel chorus of distorted voices. You cannot fight what you are, they mocked, their fingers now a whirlwind of icy tendrils slithering into her mind, dredging up memories she hoped had long been buried, and just when she thought she would shatter, a crack of light flickered behind her eyelids, as if reminding her of the love that anchored her. You're not strong enough to defeat your own darkness, the shadows insinuated. Not without sacrifice. At that horrifying whisper, a deeper dread took root. What would they demand? What hidden truths might threaten to unravel everything she fought to keep? It felt as though the world was closing in. She strained against the dark, tears streaming down her cheeks, but it became clear, the grip of the shadows throbbed not just around her body, but wormed its way into her secrets, nurturing from her guilt and fears. Images flashed through her mind, moments of weakness, regrets she deburied, ghosts of the past she thought she had left behind. Mommy. We believe in you. Tyler chanted, his small arms taut as he held on to Ava. Their faith encased Emma, giving her the strength to push back against the shadows. Leave us be. She cried, almost afraid of the power that surged through her words. And in a fit of reckless desperation, Emma unleashed what she hid inside, memories twisted and terrifying, bittersweet and horrifying. You think you can control me? I choose my path. It sent the shadows into a frenzied retreat. Whispers turned to wails, the tortured voices cloaked in fury and pain. They fought against her defiance, clawing back toward her, desperate for the fragments of her past they sought to consume. Go. Now. Emma shouted, forcing her voice past the darkness. The door was beckoning wider, a sliver of hope breaking through the shroud of despair. Tyler and Ava glanced at each other, trembling, but her command struck deeper than fear. They launched forward, charging through the threshold as the shadows surged around Emma, their screams echoing through the vast expanse. Mommy! Don't go! Ava screamed, but Emma remained anchored in place, straining against the coils that bound her. The world outside was a soft glow, a sharp contrast to the cacophony of darkness. With her children safe, the shadows reverberated, howling in rage. Emma's heart raced, hope now mingling with dread. Would this sacrifice be enough? Would her ultimate choice shatter her family, or would it lead them to a safe haven? Coursing through her veins was the pulse of the shadows, dark secrets threatening to be unleashed. What circling thoughts lay ahead in the haunting dark? In that moment, as she felt their cold breath envelop her entirely, Emma understood. Facing this terror would demand more than just strength, it required bravery to confront her very soul. Would she weather the shadows or surrender to what lingered beneath? The darkness surged one last time. And the door shuddered as if weighing the balance of life and fate. But what if she chose wrong? The darkness tightened, and a chilling whisper scraped against her ear, "Release us." As the shadows reached their choking grip anew, Emma's heart thundered with the reality of the choice ahead. What nightmarish truths would she have to face to save her family? Would she end up more lost than before? The shadows clawed mercilessly at Emma, dragging her deeper into the pit of her own fears. She felt their icy breath against her skin, a sickening reminder of the secrets she had buried long ago. Emma! Fight it! Tyler's voice echoed from the threshold, but it felt so far away now, like a lifeboat drifting on a stormy sea. Her children's faith tethered her, but the shadows were relentless, ripping at her resolve, each whisper chipping away at her spirit. "Release us," the darkness hissed, desperate yet mocking. "You can't escape what you are." With every breath, memories flickered like film reels in her mind. The scream of a past argument. The silence of a missed opportunity. Faces of people she loved and lost, their pain born from her choices. The very things she thought she'd buried were flaring to life, bathing her in self-doubt. "You need us," they implored, each shadow morphing into distorted reflections of her past. "No." Emma roared, a newfound strength surging through her veins. She thought of Tyler and Ava, potentially guarding the doorway with fear in their eyes. Their small, innocent faces pleaded for the mother they needed. "I control my fate." The shadows recoiled, but they weren't gone. They lingered, whispering promises of power, of the truth she craved yet feared. "What if the truth would free you, Emma?" they cooed. "What if we showed you everything?" Suddenly, a vision struck her, a memory she had long tried to forget, a face twisted in anguish, her own reflection glistening with unspoken regrets. A mother figure, the one she lost, standing at the edge of her consciousness. With that came a shadowy figure that held a knife. The knife of guilt, twisting deeper, promising answers if only she took the plunge into her darkest fears. "Let us show you." The chorus pleaded, hope laced with danger. Emma's heart raced, darting thoughts tangled between fear and curiosity. What if this could help her save her children? What truth could she uncover? "No." She cried again, clutching the small pendant hanging around her neck. A memento from her mother. A protective token that encouraged her to confront her fears, to embrace her memories, not fear them. "I won't give in." Yet as she clung to her children's hope, doubt loomed like a dark cloud. What if she was wrong? What if embracing these memories only fed the shadows more? White-hot terror coursed through her if she unmasked her past. What if it consumed her completely? With a desperate scream, she turned towards the door, eyes wide, pleading for escape. "Help me. We can do this together. I won't let you down." Tyler and Ava strained against the shadows, reaching through the dark. They were almost there, their voices mingling with hers, filling the air with earnest pleas that pierced through the gloom. Each voice propelled her forward, demanding she not only fight back but embrace the truth of her past, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then, just as she felt she was about to break through, the shadows retaliated with a violent surge. Their claws dug deep, dragging her against the sharp rocks of her own memories. They demanded to let them in, to surrender to what she hid. They were ravenous, hungry for Emma's fragile balance. "Face us, and we will grant you the peace you seek," the shadows promised, their voices mixing with the rhythmic pounding of her heart. "Defiance will only hurt you, come closer," but fear gnawed at her insides as she thought of Tyler's fragile heart and Ava's innocent smile. What would they lose if she succumbed? In that moment, clarity erupted within her. Emma's voice rang above the chaos. "No more. I will not let you take me." A blinding light erupted from the pendant, illuminating the choking darkness around her. The shadows shrieked, twisting and writhing as they fought against the power radiating from her very soul. But in that blinding moment, she knew she had a choice. Would she turn inward, face her fears, and finally silence the darkness, or would she spiral, knee-deep into oblivion, dragging her children with her, as the shadows surged toward her once more, whispering maddening truths in her ear? Emma felt the ground beneath her tremble. The door behind her was flickering, flashes of an escape radiating like a heartbeat. With every ounce of her strength, she reached for the light, the unknown waiting beyond the threshold. Fear clawed at her throat, demanding to hold her back, but she steeled against it. Together. Tyler and Ava voiced in unison, their determination somehow reaching her past the chaos, and as they all reached for the light, the shadows retaliated, shrieking louder than ever. What would they reveal? Did she have the strength to follow through? Then, in that last instant, as light enveloped her and darkness clawed in desperation, Emma realized the ultimate truth. She was not just facing shadows. She was facing herself. Would she embrace her memories or drown in her fears? The light surged around Emma, wrapping her in a cocoon of brilliance that dispelled the shadows momentarily. For a fleeting moment, she felt weightless, as if buoyed by hope. But hope is fragile. The shadows screamed with a fury that rattled the walls, their whispers slithering into her ears, thick with venom and temptation. "Come back to us, Emma," they hissed, their voices a chilling symphony of her darkest memories. "You can't escape." Heart racing, each pulse echoed with the urgency of her children's voices. Tyler and Ava's faces flickered before her, transient and ghostlike, caught between laughter and fear. In the blinding light, Emma had a choice. The way ahead shimmered, but the shadows pulsed ominously, clawing at her ankles, ready to drag her down. "Please, Mom. Don't leave us." Their cries wrapped around her like barbed wire, digging in deep. The shadows undulated, revealing grotesque forms of people from her past, their mouths twisted in silent screams. Friends, family, even strangers' faces enshrouded in shame, each an accusation of choices made long ago. She could feel their pain trickling into her, pooling at her feet, dragging her down. "Accept us," the darkness crooned, laced with the scent of decay. "Accept who you are. We are part of you." "No," she whispered, a thin thread of resolve tugging at her heart. The clarity from the light began to dim, flickering with doubt. What if they were right? What if she was nothing but a hollow shell, her past circuits looping over and over? The air crackled with tension as she strained toward the light, Tyler and Ava's silhouettes weaving through the darkness, stretching their small arms toward her, yearning. Emma inhaled sharply. If she fell, they would fall too. "Your mother left you," the shadows taunted, sharper than a blade. "She abandoned you." "No." Emma screamed, trying to drown out the darkness. She felt the walls of the chamber constrict, the shadows pushing closer, ready to swallow her whole. A cold sweat broke out along her spine. Leaning back into the light, she summoned all of her memories, refusing to let the darkness overwrite them. "Hey!" she shouted, gathering strength, "you don't own me." With every word, she felt the pendant pulse against her chest. It ignited brighter, each throb aligned with her heartbeat, thrumming her past into a cocktail of pain and strength. The light grew. It pushed against the shadows, illuminating the darkness that once cowered in her mind. In a raw rush, Emma threw herself forward, arms extended toward her children while the shadows writhed away, shrieking in rage. In her mind, memories sparked, moments of joy, laughter at the dinner table, late-night stories, and whispers of love filled her lungs. "I'm coming!" she shouted, just as the shadows pounced, launching themselves at her like a tidal wave. For a breath-stealing second, time froze. All was a cacophony of light and scream as the shadows clawed at her, tearing at the edges of her sanity. But then, Emma felt a tug at her waist. The warmth from Tyler and Ava bloomed against her skin, anchoring her in a swirling sea of despair. Together, they surged forward, crashing through the veil of darkness, breaking the barrier between fear and hope. Then, with a deafening roar, the shadows crumbled around them, scattering like ashes in the wind. But behind the dust and flickering shadows, a figure emerged, an embodiment of her deepest fears. It wore her face. "Do you think you can escape?" The doppelganger sneered, dark eyes glistening with malice. "You can run, but you cannot hide." The world shifted pleasurably then shockingly as reality shifted, ripping itself asunder beneath her. Emma's breath hitched in her throat as the ground swayed beneath her feet, revealing the abyss. The last remnants of the shadows whispered their ghostly refrain, taunting her resolve. Would she confront this echo of herself, or would the fragile scaffolding of her newfound strength crumble once again? And then, just as the moment seemed poised for resolution, the light flickered again, threatening to fade as darkness began to pulse anew. Emma struggled to hold on to her children, but something felt dangerously wrong. "Mom." Tyler's voice trembled, realization dawning. Something's not right. What would she do now? Face that sinister figure or plunge back into the dark? The figure with Emma's face stepped forward, its grin stretching unnaturally wide. She could see the same fear mirrored in its dark eyes, a twisted reflection of her own anguish. "You know what you've done," it said, a voice dripping with accusation. "These shadows? They're all your fault." The ground quaked beneath her, and Emma glanced down. The abyss yawned open, a swirling mass of darkness that beckoned her. She could feel the pull, a magnetic force trying to drag her down into its depths. Breathing became a challenge, every inhale felt suffocating, stealing away her courage. "No!" she gasped, clutching Tyler and Ava to her tightly. The weight of the world pressed down on her, their little bodies offering her a sense of purpose. "I want to let you take them." But the doppelganger was relentless. "You think this is love?" it taunted, voice echoing around the chamber. "You can't protect them. They see you for what you are." A shudder racked her body. Panic gripped her throat as she forced her eyes to find her children. Tyler and Ava appeared frail, shadows of themselves, faces twisted in fear. "Mom!" they cried, voices breaking with desperation. Emma's heart raced, each beat pounding like thunder in her ears. The shadows clutched at her ankles, icy fingers creeping up her legs. She shook her head, trying to dislodge the numbing encroachment. "I am not what you say." She screamed back at the figure, feeling the pendant against her chest pulse harder as if resonating with her resolve. Facing it, 1T changed the truth. The reflection hissed, shifting and flickering like a flame in the wind, each movement a ripple of uncertainty. "You can embrace this, or you can lose them." The darkness loomed, igniting a fire within her that felt reckless, as if hope were a match flickering against a fierce storm. Emma inhaled deeply, memories flooding back, her children's laughter echoing like church bells in the background of her mind. Wouldn't she do anything to protect them? To fight? Never. She bellowed, strength surging through her body like a wild current. "You're nothing but a coward, a fragment of my doubt." With need like a storm, Emma charged at the figure. The ground shifted violently, threatening to swallow her whole, but she pushed through, Tyler and Ava anchored firmly by her side. The figure shrieked, the sound piercing like needles, bracing for impact. She felt the chill of the shadows clawing at her, but she thrust her hands out, fueled by their unbreakable bond. "We are stronger than you," she shouted. Light flared from her pendant, illuminating their surroundings, banishing the shadows grasped at eye. And that moment, a rift opened wide, an unexpected torrent of brightness split the darkness. The echo of past regrets and fears was washed away, but the doppelganger roared with fury, its form distorting, features melting into grotesque shapes. "Emma!" the figure screamed, as if struck by a blow. "This isn't over." Suddenly, the chamber shook violently, and Emma felt her feet leave the ground. A powerful force pulled her up, away from the abyss. Tyler's and Ava's screams fractured the air, and she pulled them closer. "Hold on." Light enveloped them, and for an instant, everything stopped, time suspended as the world around them shimmered with vibrant brilliance. But when it shattered, an oppressive silence fell, one that sent a shiver down her spine. Where were they? The familiar faces of her children flickered like a dying star. "Mom, what is happening?" Their eyes widened in panic. Emma could only respond with a tight embrace, confusion clouding their expressions. Before she could answer, a shadow loomed in the distance, darker than the darkest night, and two glowing eyes pierced through the fog. "Did you really think you could escape?" it whispered, and her heart sank. Emma's breath halted as the intimidating apparition grew closer. It wasn't just an echo anymore. She would have to fight, and she would have to do it soon. Could the light truly shield them from yet another layer of terror, or was the darkness still waiting, ready to engulf them again? Emma's lungs felt like they were collapsing under the weight of dread. The shadow with the piercing eyes moved forward, gliding effortlessly across the ground as if it were a part of the darkness itself. Every step sent tremors through her bones. What stood before her was no longer a mere illusion, it felt like a predator, hungry for every ounce of her despair. "Mom!" Tyler cried, clinging to her leg as Ava pressed close, eyes wide and desperate. Their fear hung heavy in the air, a tangible thing that twisted like a knife in Emma's heart. Stay back. Emma warned, raising her arms to shield her children. Her resolve was a thin veneer, cracking under the strain of the relentless malevolence approaching them. You can't have us. The shadow paused, its eyes narrowing, burning with an intensity that scorched her soul. Have you learned nothing? It whispered, the words slithering through the air like a snake. You cannot escape your nature. This darkness, it is part of you. Emma's mind raced. Memories flickered through her brain, the moments of weakness, the nights she had doubted herself, her love. Had she brought this upon them? Was the twisted reflection right? A wave of nausea hit her, but she forced it down. She needed to be strong, for their sake. Shut up. She screamed, each word an act of defiance. You don't get to define who I am. As if responding to her fury, the shadow surged forward, twisting and writhing. Emma felt the cold tendrils wrap around her ankles again, a vice grip of despair trying to pull her down. Let go of me. She yanked her feet upward, battling the shadows with everything she had. Her pendant pulsed urgently, the light flickering as if it too sensed the impending danger. I want to let you win. Not now. Not ever. The room began to morph, walls melting away into a swirling void of black and gray. It felt like the universe around her was splintering, breaking apart on the edges. She caught a glimpse of distorted faces, reflections of those she had loved, friends long gone, family faded into memory. No. She cried, and in that moment, it hit her, the darkness was feeding on her fear and guilt. It was a parasite, thriving on her insecurities. She couldn't be afraid. She wouldn't let it take her. With renewed determination, Emma bent down, her eyes fierce as she looked into her children's frightened faces. We fight together, she said, her voice steady, a bare whisper of triumph. We shine bright, and we do this as a family. The shadow seemed to hesitate, as if momentarily taken aback by her unwavering conviction. But in the next heartbeat, it lunged, snapping toward them with ferocious speed, teeth that glimmered like obsidian in the diminishing light. Mom! Tyler yelled, terror radiating from his small body. With one hand, Emma clutched Ava tight, her other hand raised, straining against the dark mass that was now only inches away. Light! She shouted, desperation fueling her. The pendant flared brightly, illuminating the room with a brilliant, intense glow. The light enveloped them, banishing the shadows surrounding them, but the entity roared in rage, its form buckling and collapsing before exploding into an ethereal mist. Emma gasped as the room transformed once again, flooded now with white-hot brilliance. Yet before they could reconcile their surroundings, laughter echoed around them, a chilling, hollow laughter that sent a shiver of ice down Emma's spine. Your struggles only amuse me, Emma. As the sound faded, new shapes began to materialize, the forms of others, trapped and lost in the dark. Their faces were eerily familiar, eyes wide with hopelessness. Emma's heart raced. What have I brought them into? She thought. A veil of realization fell over her with the weight of a nightmare unfolding. They were not alone, and the shadowy menace still lurked, waiting to strike again. Would the light hold, or had the darkness merely bided its time, ready to reclaim what it believed was rightfully its? The light burned bright, wrapping Emma and her children in a cocoon of warmth. They stood together, holding on to one another as the laughter echoed, filling the air with an unsettling chill. Emma clutched Ava tightly and felt Tyler's little fingers grip her hand. Heart pounding, she peered into the blinding radiance, determined not to let fear take hold, but as the brightness illuminated the space around them, it unveiled ghastly figures caught in between realms. Faces she recognized, friends she'd lost, families shrouded in sorrow moved within the shadowed corners alongside those who were trapped, hollow expressions reflecting every ounce of their despair. They were imprisoned souls, victims that the darkness had fed on, their souls intertwined with the shadows that clawed at Emma's very being. Mom, what are they? Tyler's voice trembled, his innocent wonder mixed with fear. They were lost too, Emma whispered, overwhelmed by the terrible weight of each face. The laughter continued, a dissonant chorus mocking their plight, taunting her with the inevitable isolation she could feel creeping closer. "Embrace it, Emma," the shadows hissed, slithering around her with a hunger that pulled at the corners of her mind. "You know you belong to us." "Never." Emma roared, a fierce blaze igniting within her. "I will not concede. I choose my family over your darkness." With that declaration, she felt a surge of light crackle through her pendant, sending shockwaves of energy into the surrounding gloom. It pulsed with her heartbeat, a reminder of the love she had for Tyler and Ava. This was more than a fight for survival, this was a battle for her heart, for the very essence of who she was. "Stay with me," she called fiercely as the shadows howled, retreating momentarily. In that moment of hesitation, Emma dared to step forward, drawing strength from the warmth emanating from her children. "We are not alone, we have each other." Together, they formed a strong shield against the malevolence three small, yet spirited souls entwined in a bond the darkness could not touch. Emma lifted her chin, and with every ounce of courage, she shouted, "Light! We reject you." The phrase ignited a blinding pulse that erupted from them, encasing the trapped souls in brilliance, each face bathing in the glow that provided instant clarity and strength. Rather than cower, the spirits transformed, roaring with renewed life alongside Emma and her children. Together, they cried, and as one, they surged forward, creating a radiant wave that washed over the dark against its relentless creep. The darkness screamed a terrible, wretched sound, but it was too late. The light surged onward, a powerful tide against the evil that had captured them. In a flash of brilliance, memories flooded through Emma, her gentle mother's whispers of encouragement, her father's proud smile, every loving embrace, and countless joyful moments battled against the serpent of despair. The dark figures slipped and hissed around her, but they faltered, their forms dissipating under the unwavering brightness Emma had summoned. "Goodbye." A long-lost friend's voice echoed back to her as they turned to dust, swallowed by the brilliance pouring forth from the pendant. Emma realized they were not vanishing, they were finally free. Then the shadowy figure manifested one last time, a twisted version of her own essence. "You think you're free?" It spat, rage thrumming through its words. "There is always darkness within you." "No. This is my truth." Emma's voice cut through the chaos, startling even her shadowed reflection. "I embrace my past but deny you the power to dictate my future." With a final surge of power, the bond between her and her children glowed primal and unshakable. As the doppelganger lunged forward, Emma shouted, "Your time is up." The burst of light swallowed the darkness whole, merging into a spectacular explosion that illuminated the entire space and shattered the oppressive atmosphere. The world swirled as reality tilted, the realm of shadows breaking apart like glass under pressure. When the light receded, Emma found herself standing on the steps of her Maplewood home. The sun painted hues across the sky, the laughter of her children echoing peacefully. The air was crisp, filled with newfound clarity and purpose. "We did it," Emma breathed, looking down as Tyler and Ava giggled, playing in the grass beneath the blossoming trees. She reached down and held their hands tightly. Whatever darkness they had faced was behind them now, drifting far away like a bad memory. Maplewood stood serene, enveloped in a warm kiss of sunlight. But Emma knew this truth, that shadows might always linger, whispering ominous things, but together, as a family, their bond and love shone brighter than any darkness could ever dim. "We are home," she whispered, a sense of peace washing over her as they embraced like a tapestry woven with love, hope, and resilience. Emma felt the tender weight of her children and viewed the world anew, a light pushing forth from within, a promise of what lay ahead and the darkness they would never have to face alone again. Now, real-life challenges awaited, full of victories and battles. As they laughed and twirled beneath the glow of the morning sun, Emma's heart brimmed with a new resolution. Maplewood was theirs, with all its charm and shadows. But they would face them together, and so, their story was only just beginning. You need to subscribe now to this channel. Don't miss out on future exclusive stories that will thrill and chill you. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and let others dive into this thrilling world. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Did you see it coming? And please, don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans show their support. Let us grow this community together.